Lascan Corlin, thank you for the opportunity to raise this very important issue. Last week my attention was drawn to a very serious and concerning issue with regard to the discovery of black grass in a chagas plot in Oak Park in Carlow. To help understand more about it, I listened to a very informative podcast on the Farmers Journal website discussing the issue. And for those who aren't aware, black grass is an invasive weed which spreads very easily and very quickly. It can be found in a variety of different settings, but of most concern would be that of cereal crops. It's a major problem in the UK and can have a devastating impact on crop yields for tillage farmers. Chagas made the discovery of black grass in a commercial wildflower mixture which was growing in one of their plots. The major issue here, Count Corley, is that the word commercial, essentially meaning that anyone could have and possibly may have bought similar mixtures of commercial wildflower seeds containing black grass. We would be incredibly lucky if the only commercial mixture imported into Ireland contaminated with black grass just happened to be bought by Chagas. However, logic would suggest that this is unlikely and that many people have imported seed mixtures containing black grass from the UK. Black grass is a major problem because it spreads so quickly and it's herbicide resistant. It's estimated that black grass is costing the UK economy nearly £400 million and 800,000 tonnes of lost harvest every year. If we allow this weed to establish itself here, crop farming will be severely damaged. It's a very concerning development because under the Pollinator Plan, which is a government-led initiative that aims to help bees, other pollinating insects and our wider biodiversity, local groups such as schools, community groups, tidy towns groups, etc. may be importing wildflower seeds to use as part of their efforts. If black grass is contained in commercially available mixtures, then there is an obvious and major risk that black grass being imported and sown unintentionally right across the country, having a potentially devastating impact on crops. This is a weed which can spread very easily and rapidly, and we must do all we can to stop it. In theory, schemes such as the Pollinator Plan, it's a great idea, but we must be alerted to unintended consequences. And if we're going to be encouraging people to sow wildflower seeds and other related plants, then it's imperative that we have our ducks in a row and that we've joined up thinking when it comes to certification and regulation. Hopefully the discovery in Carlow is a one-off exception, but we need to be very vigilant. There are at least two areas which the government can act upon. The first is that the department needs to take this very seriously and put steps in place to raise awareness amongst those who have imported wildflower seeds and steps to prevent black grass from destroying crops. Secondly, I understand that the Department of Agriculture has no certification process on imported wildflower seeds. We also have straw being imported which isn't being tested for black grass. We cannot on the one hand be encouraging community groups and schools to sow wildflower seeds for biodiversity, while on the other hand fail to ensure that such seeds being imported are not contaminated. I look forward to the Minister's response on the matter. Thank you.
Lascan Corla, I'd like to thank Deputy Murphy for raising what is a really important issue, and one with which I share her concern about regarding the discovery and recent reporting of black grass being found in wild seed mixes. I'd like to start off by saying to Deputy Murphy that the standards for quality and purity of seed and propagating material are implemented at EU level through a suite of EU directives and regulations. In total, this legislation is implemented through 12 directives and a number of associated regulations. The legislation is applicable to the main agricultural crops covering fodder plants, cereals, beet, potatoes, oilseed crops, vegetables, fruit, ornamental plants and forestry. The legislation is not applicable to wildflowered seeds. While the legislation covers certain weed and disease species, there are no specific controls relating to black grass. The number of weed species covered in the legislation is very limited. Seed from third countries is certified and labelled under OECD rules. Although there is no specific tolerance for black grass in the OECD rules, it does state crops containing an excessive number of weeds shall be rejected, and also the seed crop should be reasonably free from weeds and other crop species, especially those whose seeds may be difficult to separate from the seed crop during seed processing. Since the 1st of January 2021, the UK and UK GB is certifying seed according to OECD certification rules and has stated they will certify seed according to EU standards for the next 2 years. Member States may implement voluntary controls for seed certified in their own territory, but cannot impose those controls for seed certified in another Member State. The Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine has a voluntary agreement with the Irish Seed Trade Association to impose a zero tolerance for blackgrass, wild oats and sterile brome in cereal crops intended for certification in Ireland. My officials are in contact with the Irish Seed Trade Association with a view to extending this voluntary agreement to include wildflower seeds propagated in Ireland and also to imported wildflower species formulated in mixtures in Ireland. My department strongly advises that only locally sourced wildflower seeds are planted, and my officials are engaging with the industry to ensure locally produced seed is free of blackgrass. So in simple terms, Deputy Murphy, what I would say is there is swift and strong action being taken by my department, and that's about controlling what we can control in the short term, which is within our own system here in Ireland, and the voluntary code that has been, has worked very well for us in the past. And the thing about that voluntary code is it's actually at a higher level than the international code, it's at a higher level than the OECD rules, and it's a higher level than EU regulations, because we have zero tolerance. So officials from my department, have a very stringent approach to inspecting all seed for certification here. It's inspected 3 times during the year. It's visually inspected when growing and also when it's been assembled. And there's a zero tolerance. Any blackgrass found is removed. So really the point here about us using wild seed mixes into the future for this area is really, really important to make sure that we don't let this, because the concerns you raise are very real, and they're real for tillage farmers in particular, for commercial cereal crop growing, that people with the best of intentions sowing wild seed mix might inadvertently be sowing an invasive species that we don't want to become widespread here in Ireland. So we continue to keep a very close eye on us on this, but my department is engaging very closely with the Seed Trade Association on this as well.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Murphy.
Thank you, Lascan Corl, and thank you, Minister, for your response. I do believe that what we need here is very, very proactive approach. We normally see reaction, so I think we have time here. There certainly needs to be that type of engagement. If we have no certification process on imported wildflower seeds, that needs to be changed. I think we also need to have some form of a social media campaign, because there are so many community and voluntary groups who are involved in biodiversity, particularly at local county council level, that there should be a campaign that makes them aware and makes them vigilant in relation to being able to identify blackgrass at the very least. You'll know yourself, Minister, and I understand you've had engagement with many of the farm organisations and your local farmers, as have I. And the last thing we can heap on tillage farmers or put our own crop produce at risk, particularly in line with what's going to happen with CAP reform and convergence and our new eco schemes, or the proposal of the new eco schemes, and how much damage that's going to do to the farmers, possible cuts of up to 40%. So I'm asking you, Minister, not to allow this to fester, to ensure that this very much is taken in hand by the department. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy. Now, Minister, to conclude.
Yes, Deputy. Look, you can take it from me. We are taking this very seriously. When you talk about, extending inspections to imported seed, that isn't open to us in terms of the EU regs. So what it is about here is controlling what's within our own. We envisage into the future. This was obviously seed that had been imported. The seed that was discovered in the Chagas plant had been imported from the UK. So we envisage in the future that the vast majority of the wild seed that will be used here in Ireland will be propagated in Ireland, and even that uses some seed from abroad, but that's assembled here, we have control over as well. And again, in all of those circumstances, we have a zero tolerance, which is a higher level. There is no tolerance for any level of blackgrass, and that is being removed. But the points you make are valid, they're taken on board, and we are working on this. And to say that this is not a reactive measure, we have had this voluntary code for a long time. Blackgrass has been a part of that for a long time, and we're just increasing vigilance. And the point you make, I will bring back in relation to a promotional campaign, because it is a point worth making, because we do take this so seriously. So thanks very much, Deputy Murphy, for that.